Yo, what up? This is Pastor Stack's podcast. I'm Chris Stackhouse. Thank you for joining me one more time, and away we go. Yeah, so listen, as always, we're going to talk about what's on my mind, what's in my heart, what's on my soul. But before we get into that, you can see we got new surroundings, and I want to explain what that's all about, because this would not come about without none other than Mr. Malik. So if you'll come so you can tell us about the new studio and the surroundings, and just let us know about this new podcast place we have.
Oh, yes, indeed. So the name of this place is the 26 Content Studio. It's going to be a place where people can record content, podcasts, and just really express their creativity. So I knew I had to give Louis Chapel some exclusive access to the studio and definitely get Pastor up in here for sure.
So just tell them where we are, how they could, find you and locate, if they want to do their podcast here.
Got you. So you can find us on social media, Facebook and Instagram, 26 Studio, Content Creation Studio. And so again, you can follow us there, and you'll be able to book through our website, and anything you guys need, we can pretty much have it here. And so we're more than happy to have you guys.
All right. Beautiful studio. Thank you for allowing us to come and share this space and do our podcast from this space. So once again, that's 26 Studios, Content Studios. You can find them on social media. You can book it yourself. Like I said, it is we can't pan around right now, but beautiful podcast space. Now, let's get into it. First up, what's on my mind, I call this one Sanctuary in the Spotlight. Sanctuary in the Spotlight. And this is really just frames this conversation here, that there is a popularity to criticizing the church. It's all over the internet, just like a lot of stuff is all over the internet. But there's really popularity to criticizing the church, talking negatively about the church, and I even hesitate to say the church, because every church is really different, and every church has its own distinct ways and things that they do. But just to say in general, it seems to be very popular to criticize the church and talk about what the church isn't and what the church doesn't do. And a lot of this conversation happens from people that don't even go to church. So it's weird to have people that consider themselves experts enough to criticize the church that don't even go to church, don't even step foot in the church. So at least you could be a part of it. But then there are some people that are a part of it but go on social media and then tear it down and then wonder why people don't go to church, because people like that go to church and then talk negatively about it. But this is what I know. The church, our churches, our worship services and concerts and all those other kind of things, it is out there like it has never been before, because of the pandemic. And we all had to go online so that we could still reach people and still worship with people. So our churches went to these social media platforms in mass. We're in this digital space. We are in this digital world. And that means we're showing all of what we have. Some of it, churches, we got to be honest, is good. Some of it, churches, I got to be honest, is not so good. Some of it is kind of bad and kind of ugly sometimes. But for all of what we are out there in a way that we've never been before, because of the proliferation of social media in this digital space. That's why you have conversations like the Kirk Franklin reunion tour. Is that what it's called? Reunion tour? And people were, criticizing that they were at the Coliseum and they were selling alcohol. So that's a conversation. Then there's a clip out that's circulating right now, Roy. If I thought about it in time, I would have given it to you. You're not gonna believe this, but it starts out. It's like a fashion show. This is woman, she's walking, and it's like she's a fashion show. And then when she gets down to where she's going, it's a casket right there. It's a funeral. It's a fashion show funeral. Yeah, with a dead body laying right there and everything. And then I saw another clip of a pastor being voted out of a church and, all of the chaos that ensues with it. That's what I mean. We have good worship out there. We have people that are really connecting in a spiritual and a holistic way to what churches are doing and how they're reaching. And then you have this other aspect of it that shows kind of the bad and the ugly. But this is all I want you to know. Don't judge us by our worst. Don't even judge us by our best. Just understand that we are an entity that there is some good, there is some bad, there is some ugly, there is some pretty, and there are so many churches that are really trying their best to do the best they can to be good churches and in their community and help and, and all of the other things that church is supposed to be. But I know those churches don't get as much talk. Those churches don't get as much conversation because it is easier to talk about the negative things than it is to talk about the positive things. So I just wanted to say, I know the sanctuary is in the spotlight, and that's all right. And I hope that those that like to criticize the church and even lie on the church at times take enough time to see that there are some churches that are doing a lot of good work on behalf of the Lord that we serve also. So that's the sanctuary in the spotlight. Now, next thing I want to talk about, that's on my mind, a festive foresight. Now, when I mentioned this one to Roy, he was like, man, but nah, listen, this is really for the brothers out there. Brothers, lean in. I want you to listen what this festive foresight is all about, because I don't think it's too early to have this conversation. I want you to start to consider getting ready for the holidays. And sisters, you too, but brothers, I'm talking to you in particular, because I know sometimes we wait the last minute to start to get our Christmas gifts and to start to get things ready for the holidays. So that's why I just wanted to give you a reminder. It'll be here before you know it. Christmas will be here before you know it. So just take into consideration, if you had to travel, you go ahead and start looking into what the hotel costs. Go ahead and start looking into, if you need to rent a car, just start looking into those things so that you don't have to do it last minute, because it's going to be here before you know it. For your gifts, for your kids, for your lady, or women, for your man. Like, now is the time to start to consider those things, because many of us have to budget to make sure that we will have enough to get our kids what they want, and get our mama something and things of that nature. So I am an early shopper. I don't like to wait last minute. I'm an early planner too, so I don't like to wait till like a week out to a thing. So, and I know, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that wait the last minute, and that's just kind of how you roll. You work well under pressure, so do you do your thing. But to those that don't work well under pressure, now is the time to start to consider the holidays. What do I need to budget? Where am I going to travel? What flight? Start looking at your flight. Start looking at your hotel. Start looking at all of those things, because the earlier you do it and the earlier you get ready and the earlier you get prepared, the smoother some of those holiday plans can be. Because, holidays throw enough curveballs as it is. So go ahead and get yourself ready for that. And, you're welcome, because you're going to be thanking me later. You're going to say, hey, man, this is one of the easiest, smoothest holiday seasons I've had. And that's because you did some work in advance. So, all right, you're welcome for that. So get ready. All right, this next one, I need to talk to my Marvel people, my DC comic people. This one is called Marvel's Misfire. Now, Marvel Studios, up until recently, have been a juggernaut. I mean, they were just rolling out just movie hit after movie hit after movie hit. They had us going to the movies watching Ant-Man. Ant-Man. Like, who cares about Ant-Man? We all did. Groot. Never even heard of Groot or the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy. They were making massive amounts of money because that Marvel universe was just, it was just on fire. Like, everything they touched was gold. But not anymore. Not anymore. Just recently, I believe, The Marvels came out, and it's the most recent MCU film, and it recorded the franchise's lowest opening weekend and the worst first Monday box office gross in the Marvel MCU history, indicating what many have already been saying, that the Marvel dynasty or greatness we've seen the best of it, and now it's coming to an end. I don't know, because I hear Loki is a good show. I haven't watched it, but Marvel has made some weird decisions, like with the She-Hulk and some of the other things that they've done. They've made some strange decisions, and there are some people that say it's Disney's fault. That once Marvel was taken over by Disney, that really began to be the downward decline of what Marvel was, and all of the great stuff that was coming out of the studio. They call it wokeism. Now, I feel like wokeism is really just synonymous at this point with saying that it's pushing a gay agenda. And I know there are many people that have been turned off by Disney and by proxy Marvel, because they say it's pushing a gay agenda, a woke agenda, because that's really what they mean when they say woke. It's just common nuclear, because woke used to be a term for black awareness, but it doesn't mean that anymore. Wokeness, most of the time people say wokeness, they're talking about LGBTQ and whatever the other letters are. It's too many for me to keep up with. But maybe it's that. Maybe Disney has put too much of that into it. Maybe Disney's creative studios are just not living up to par. I don't know what it is, but one thing is for sure: Marvel movies and things coming out of the Marvel studios are just not what they used to be. But I tell you this, they still doing better than DC Comics. I don't think anybody, like, even if you don't like Marvel, Roy, you think Marvel's still doing better than DC? What? What's that? The DC? Yeah. What is it called? The Blue Beetle. Oh, the Blue Beetle. You saw the Blue Beetle? Yeah. And it was good? Yeah. Did you see the Blue Beetle?
I thought about it though.
You thought about it?
I thought about it.
Yeah. See, I saw. Did they even do any advertising for the Blue Beetle?
Yeah.
Did they? Okay. All right. Well, all right. Shout out to DC. Oh yeah. Black Adam. Yeah. Oh, Black Adam did do well. You know what? Hey, y'all right. Y'all right. DC is doing all right, but they still ain't doing better than Marvel. Nah, they still not doing it. So even though Marvel is having its issues, I bet Marvel is still sitting in a better position than what DC is. But I guess we'll see what happens with Marvel. We'll see if they find a way to rebound. But they were such a juggernaut, that would have been hard for anybody to sustain. That would have been hard for any studio or any writers to sustain that level of success. All right, and we're moving on. Next, so those things were what was on my mind. Now I want to talk about what's on my heart. This one, I baptized my son again. Now what you thinking? I didn't baptize one son twice. I have two sons. An older son, CJ, who's 11, and a younger son, Calvin, who's 9. And then I have 3-year-old twin girls, Naya and Celia. I got a whole story about, I'm trying to sit and eat breakfast, right? So I'm trying to sit and eat breakfast. I get a phone call, and I got to go to the school because one of my daughters is not listening to the teacher. And so I got to go down and, discipline my baby. And disciplining your daughter versus your son. Fathers, y'all know what I'm talking about. It's just, it hit different when you got to discipline your baby girls, but you got to discipline them too, because you want them to be good listeners and not disrupt the classroom. But anyway, that ain't even why I'm telling this story. So I'm telling this story because I'm telling you about my son who I just baptized, named Calvin. I baptized my first son this summer, CJ. My second son, Calvin, comes to me and says that he's ready and he wants to be baptized. He wants to be saved, to give his life to Christ. This is important to me. I love the Lord. I am a man of God. I try to do my best to follow God and to be a good man according to what I believe God would require of me. And as a pastor, I want my kids to be saved. I pray that my kids are saved, but I don't tell them, hey, you need to give your life to Christ. Hey, you need to be saved, because my belief was, if I live it, I don't have to tell it, because actions speak louder than words. So when my oldest son and now my second son came and said they want to give their life to Christ, it was a very moving moment for me, because I have seen my sons at their young age experience so many first and do so many things that I've been proud of. Their grades, their sports achievements, their extracurricular activities, just the things that my sons have made me proud of. I'm fortunate to say is a good list, but nothing has made me prouder. Nothing has made me happy. Nothing has brought me more joy than my son saying that they wanted to be saved, give their life to Christ and be baptized, because I won't be with them forever. I won't be here forever, but God will. There will be situations in their life that are so out of my hands, so out of my control. There are no situations out of God's hands, out of God's control. And the fact that my sons have started this journey, because at a young age, that's all you're doing. You're really starting the journey. It's not an arriving kind of thing. Even if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, it's not an arrival thing. But the fact that they're willing to start that journey with God and accept Him as a Savior, I'm telling you this, if I didn't live to see tomorrow, I could close my eyes and feel accomplished as a father with my sons, that they've given their life to Christ. And that even though I'm gone and they won't have daddy's covering anymore, they got their heavenly Father's covering. So to all of the fathers out there, I encourage you to try to live a life that inspires your children to know the same God that you know and to follow the same God that you follow. It'll be one of the best feelings as a father you've ever felt. Mark my words. And when you feel it, go ahead and remember this video, come back to it, put it in the comments and say, Stack, you were right. One of the greatest feelings in the world was when my son or my daughter gave their life to Christ. All right. Last up, what's in my soul? All right. I'm going to go ahead and get into this one. I go into this one with a little bit of trepidation to even talk, but I want to talk about the modern man. I want to talk about the modern man. And I feel a little comfortable. I do feel a little comfortable talking about it to this degree. What does it mean to be a man in 2023? There's so many people having conversations about what it means to be a man, and a lot of them circle around, center around dating and, and relationships and things of that nature. But I want to talk about manhood and being a man from a different perspective. I want to tell you that sometimes as a man, we are dealing with a multitude of things that are hard and that are difficult. And as a man, sometimes you feel like the only thing you are allowed to be is okay. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we could deal with some devastating stuff. But as a man, we feel like the only thing we're ever allowed to be with it is okay. Like, we could either be angry about it or we can be okay. And there's not any room for any other nuance for us to feel. And some people might even think I'm even breaking the man code to even talk about a man hurting or a man being vulnerable. But we got feelings and emotions just like anybody else. It's just we're generally only allowed to either be angry, all right, and that's pretty much it. Just angry and okay. So let me see if I can. When you're a man, you have to be okay. At least that's what we're told. Your parent died or your parent is sick and in the process of dying. How you doing? As a man, you know what your answer is. I'm okay. Your marriage is failing, about to get a divorce. Yo, bro, you all right? Yeah, man, I'm okay. Sometimes you ain't okay. What else? What was another thing that happened? Relationship issues, co-parenting with, your baby mama, whatever, and things are not right. And your boy's like, yo, man, how everything going? You want to say, man, I'm very sad about not being able to see my kids. I feel heartbroken that, things are, but you can't say that. So you know what you say as a man in general? Man, I'm all right. It's okay to not be all right. It's okay. It's okay to be human and not be okay. That's all I really want you to know. And I know two things. One, It's hard to admit as a man that you're overwhelmed. It's hard to admit as a man that you're hurting. Because first of all, that's just not allowed, not permissible. You know what I'm saying? Like, we could be hurt physically, but we can't admit that we're hurt emotionally. But we get hurt too. And the reason it's hard to admit it is because who do you admit it to? You gonna admit it to your boys? That ain't really the kind of conversation we have. We haven't really been equipped for that. You know what I'm saying? So who you admit it to? Can you admit it to your lady? Because there's so many things on the internet saying she don't want to hear that. It's going to make her look at you different. So if you're not okay, who do you admit that to? Who do you say that to? That's part of the dilemma why some men don't admit they're okay, because they feel like they have no one to be a word that we don't want to use. A word that all men, well, not all men, but a lot of men, I'm going to say black men, because those are the men I know the most vulnerable. As a man, who are you vulnerable to? Hopefully you can be vulnerable with your woman, your lady, but even then, you feel like you can't be too vulnerable. Can't be too hurt, and then she think you're too sensitive. And then it's like that song back in the 90s, you need a man with sensitivity. So you're kind of in a, you know what I'm saying? You want to be big, you want to be strong. You don't want to be vulnerable and sensitive, but so it's hard to admit you're overwhelmed. It's hard to admit you're hurting. It's hard to be vulnerable. And then, like I said, sometimes it's even hard to find someone that cares, because you're supposed to just suck it up and man up. Someone told me that I shouldn't even come on this podcast and even talk about counseling. He's like, man, you can't go in there and talk about counseling. You can't go in there and tell people, and admit you had to go to therapy or counseling, anything like that. We got to take the stigma out of that. That's why some of y'all are walking around so angry and upset, because you feel like it's the only emotion you can show. It's okay to not be okay. And this is what I want to end with. I've had a lot of days where I have not been okay. Of course I have. I'm human. Nobody's okay every day. My faith has helped me so much in my hardest times. It has not allowed me to avoid those hard times, though I wish it did. My faith has gotten me through those hard times. So I just want to tell all of the men out there that might be hurting or wanting to be vulnerable. I just wanted to not have to be the man all of the time, and just be. And just admit that, man, I ain't okay today. Get to know the Lord. Faith in his strength. Faith in what he is and what he can be for you. And for me, it has gotten me through some of the most difficult times of my life. So that's what I prescribe for anybody that even cares, or for anybody that is even listening. That faith, my brother, faith, my man, helps to get you through. And with that wraps up this holiday edition of Pastor Stack's podcast. I'll be back when I get back. No need to be giving a time frame. We all know, man, I'm hit and miss with this, but I'm going to see if I can do it on a more regular basis. Love y'all. Be good to each other. Be good to the people that God has put around you. Be blessed. Be safe. We'll catch you on the next go round.